I'm literally getting goosebumps here. But yeah, to look back, September 2021, I thought I'd be back at a desk, having nervous breakdowns every 6 months, and just yeah. But to be able to have this support, like you supported me, literally guiding me through everything, I wouldn't have been here. I wouldn't have been here, and I wouldn't have been able to help these ladies because they do claim that it's life changing.
Hello and welcome to the Studio Takeover podcast. I'm your host, Kat Ford Coates. Today, I am joined by Aamel Abed, and she owns and runs Diamonds Portraits based out of Calgary, Alberta in Canada. And I've known Amel through the spaces, if you will, in the photo world for a couple of years now, but I'm really excited to bring her onto the podcast today. And you'll understand why in just a little bit. But for now, welcome, Amel. I'm so glad you're here.
I am so glad I'm here too. Thank you so much for inviting me to the podcast. I am thrilled to be part of your podcast and truly appreciate it. And super excited to share my journey.
So now, speaking of your journey, right? Why don't we start just by talking about how your business has unfolded for you?
So my journey is kind of interesting. My background is IT. I was in it for, I think, like 15 years. In 2014, I started just doing photography as a hobby. So I would literally do fall session, Christmas sessions, and that's it. I was charging $60, and I was given like all the photos.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, but it was just a hobby on the side, outdoors. 2021, January 27th, actually. I just had that reminder on Facebook. Had a little nervous breakdown, quit my job, got on a plane to London within 24 hours, literally. Booked the hotels and everything on the way. It was just like I needed to get away. It was the furthest plane out of Calgary. Anyhow, kind of sorted my thoughts out there, spent some time alone to figure out what's going on. The IT world wasn't nice to me. I came back and I didn't know what to do with myself. So I actually went back to IT, followed by a second nervous breakdown in September 2021. And that's when I knew I had to make something else work. But because of what I went through, I was so focused on how do I help women that have gone through what I'm going through and we go through so much.
Sure.
And so I was focused on that. And I kid you not, like not in a million years would I thought that I would be able to do what I do now through my camera. To this second, it's like mind blowing. I remember going on a photography webpage and I said, or like Facebook page. And I said, here's my situation. I need to make this work, but how do I empower women? And somebody said, join the race. And so that was December 2021. And now things are just going to keep going. I joined, remember going away for a month. So I was inactive. Then I hear about WPPI and I'm like, I'm going to go meet those folks and see why they think they can charge thousands of dollars for photos because quote unquote, I'll never do that. I show up there and I'm sitting at your seminar, you were speaking. And in my head, I'm like, this is so not for me, like 1,000%. It's not my style. I shoot candid. So, at that point, I shot a couple of weddings and it was called heartfelt moments. So it was all about like the moment, capturing the natural moment. And then you're standing there and you go, you don't have to copy what we do. Figure out how you want to do your experience and how you want to set it up with your stylist. And I remember coming to you and I was like crying. I'm like, thank you. You unlocked something in me. So that was Feb 2022. I come back Feb 25th. I looked at the posts yesterday and at our group and I was asking, took pictures of my basement and I was asking, this is the measurement. How should I set up my studio? And it just kept going from there. June, I went to Graphy. March 10th, I painted 4 backdrops. So I was I was obsessed with the group, seeing what everybody's doing. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. And I was just doing everything. My first ad that I set up on Facebook that I just kind of watched a couple of YouTubes and just did whatever was March 18th. So like to go from September 2021, not knowing what the heck I'm doing with my life, to just doing it, I feel like I went into fight or flight mode. I definitely don't want to go back to IT, but I was also so inspired by everyone that was doing it. June 2022 was Raffi. That was Italy. And I don't know if you remember that.
Oh, yes, I definitely remember, and that every year they host a workshop at Graphi Castle in Italy. So if you're a Graphi customer, you can purchase tickets. This year is going to be with Terry Hofford and Cara Marie. But Amel attended and I was there. And at the time, Sue Bryce was one of the educators. And I was there supporting her. And I gave a mastermind for attendees there to opt in on. And Amel was part of that.
I absolutely loved that. Definitely took things to the next level. However, I feel like my experience got ruined because the day before I flew, I was misdiagnosed. And I'm not even going to get into it, but I was misdiagnosed and I was told that I might not live for too long. And so back into fight or flight. Obviously didn't shoot. I was in a wheelchair for a couple of weeks, back and forth into the hospital. By September, I got better. And I went right back to setting up an ad, started shooting my 40 over 40 campaign, November 2022. Last year, 2023, November 18th was my first over 40 and Fierce gala, and it was absolutely fabulous. I didn't actually shoot 40 ladies. I did 36. No one ever asks. But yeah, it was fabulous. But looking at how quick everything happened, I am just amazed by how quick this whole journey is unfolding. I absolutely love, if we want to talk about 2024, being part of you're in the studio, because man, I look back and I don't even know how I did it without all the systems. Literally every single class that we have, I'm like, how did I get through my first year? And how much the amount of time I could have saved. So yeah, it's been insane. And I'll be honest, Kat, you've been one of the most people that have impacted my journey, because my first biggest sale, 6,000 and I want to say 400. You challenged me to get 10,000 a month, because I'm like, I do 5 to 7. And
5 to 7 is doable, but once you're at 5 to 7, you can do more without doing more. Right. And let's pause for a second. I want to go back to September of 2021 when you were just like, oh, this is interesting. For those of you that know me, you know that I taught for the portrait system for several years and mentored on their platform. And for those of you who are just like trying to understand what sustainable pricing looks like and how to create a business, it's a beautiful place to start. It's one of those education systems that incorporates heart and the information as well. What I find is that the majority of the people that choose to work with me get to that space where they're at, like, they've got proof of concept, right? They're starting to get into sustainable pricing and they are having some success, 1-2 sessions a month. And these sessions are at $1,200, $2,000. And then like you realize like, I can do more. And that's coming from the space of, I will never charge that much, because we're in this mindset in the beginning of, well, we're just taking photos. Why can't we be affordable? I want to be accessible to people. And thinking that if we come in and we are, on the lower end of the spectrum, that we will have the volume to make up for it. And one of two things can happen. One of those things is you do get super busy, right? You get so busy and realize that with the 30 clients that you have that month, that's a lot of work. Maybe 30 clients at, $200. And that sounds really great, because you're just showing up, taking photos, sending them a gallery, be done, right? But then you realize like, this is this is a lot of work. And the other side of that coin is there's so many photographers and I just can't even get anybody to pay me $200, right? Because you're in competition with photographers in your area, and it's hundreds of photographers in your area under that $1,000 price point. So instead of being able to command even $200, you can barely get any attention, let alone paid. But you coming through the portrait system and then coming to me, like you said, you know, when we sat down at the Portrait Masters conference, you were like, well, you know, 5 to 7 a month, you know, that's pretty average. And I was like, okay, do 10. If you can do 7, you can do 10. If you can do 10, you can do 30.
And I'll be honest with you, I've been thinking about that conversation a lot, because you're unlocking a lot of self-value and money issues. Like, who am I to make 10,000? You know, I've made 7. I'm comfortable with that. But yeah, and my first session, the only one, and I told you I'm going to take January to work on like my courses and my systems. So I had my session the other day, and it was the easiest sale ever, $3,300 plus her $400 session fee at $37. And it was literally an easy sale. That was the second, I think it was the second or third session after our conversation about the 10,000. You can make more, accept more, be open and value your experience. And it's okay to take their money, basically.
Well, it is. They're the ones that are choosing to spend it. It's not like you're like, hey, what's that over there? And rifling through their purse, right? You are fully educating them about the opportunity that's available to them. I think that's in the way that I coordinate the sales process with my students is, look, it's about empowering them to make the decision of how they spend their money with you. And for those of us that are in the back hiding, oh, I don't want to approach them, or I don't want to tell them, and I don't want to say $5,000 out loud, all you're doing is disempowering your customer. And when your customer is disempowered, the sales reflect that. Either they don't understand, a confused mind says what? A confused mind says no. So when they're fully educated and you are in service to them, and it's coming from a place of love. You love to empower women. You love to be a photographer. You love this experience. There's nothing, who am I to make that much about it, right? And, you know, those ceilings will raise the more and more you go through the process, right? My associate photographer and I were having a conversation, and they've had some sales over 5, but primarily like their sales average is right at about 4,500 on average. But one of the things that we noticed was during the sales process in the image selection appointment, they wouldn't say anything over $5,000 out loud. They would point to it. They would laugh it off, call it a lot, right? But really, talking about it with them, the same way I'm talking to you, we realized that was their ceiling, was $5,000. Like, I'm comfortable accepting $5,000. And I was like, well, look at you with $4,500 average sale. So for you to say, you know, I make $7,000 and be proud of it, and then hear $10,000 for a month and feel like, who do I think I am? What is that difference? Where do you think that comes from?
I was raised as like, you go to school, you do well, you do not get like, I would show up at home and be like, I got a 98. And my dad would be like, what happened to the 2%? But it's learning from a book, being tested, and getting that piece of paper that says, I passed the test from the information that I read from the book. Memorized or understood. I struggled so much with the whole photography career when I started, because and I actually went and did behind everybody's back, because I didn't even tell. I'm like, I'm not, because I knew everybody's going to be like, you don't need to waste your time, but I needed a piece of paper. So I actually did an online course, got a diploma, because it validates me, because that piece of paper validates me, and I'm so fortunate to. But it just goes through how to use the camera, blah blah blah. Nothing that I've learned through you or Sue or anyone on our group or the portrait system. But I think the fact that almost feel like I'm not qualified.
Right. Imposter syndrome. Sure. That's pretty normal. All of us go through imposter syndrome, especially in the photo space or creative spaces in general. And that's really because photography has such a low barrier to entry, right? I just need a camera and a tax ID and I can charge people. And most people don't even get the tax ID part of it. It's all under the table, right? Until they realize like, oh no, I need to legitimize this. And when we talk about that validation, because that barrier to entry is so low, we need some sort of outside influence saying, no, you are qualified. And so I think going through, and understanding the tech of your camera and, your relationship triangles and all of those things are terrific. But I also think that's why accreditation programs are so valuable as well, because so many of us, myself included, came into this space. Like my first 2 years in business was on a borrowed first generation Canon Rebel. And so I had imposter syndrome big time. I couldn't even afford a camera. Who was I to charge $1,200?
Yeah.
And going through the accreditation program with the Portrait Masters was actually incredibly helpful. Is that like an accreditation that you've pursued?
Oh yeah. As soon as I actually signed up with you guys, I remember just sending wedding pictures that I absolutely loved. And I think it was the first time the category wedding was in there. And I'm like, lucky me. And I actually got a bronze. I'm like, oh, so I'm not bad. And so every single time I entered one or two, and I've been working towards it.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Keep going. Like I will always champion the Portrait Masters accreditation because it is an accreditation. It's not only the awards side of it. There are awards for all over the world, right? And some are very prestigious and others are just kind of getting their feet under them. But the feeling of like achievement in that pursuit is unparalleled. And when I was first introduced to awards and accreditation, the very first round of it, I was very skeptical. I was very focused on the business and the system side of things. My work was okay. It wasn't like amazing or fantastic, but it wasn't bad. It was proficient. We'll put it that way. And I skipped the first one. I was like, my clients don't care about awards. And then after that, the next round came up and I was like, well, I'm working on my Come As You Are. Maybe I'll submit some of my Come As You Are clients, because clients would love to see, those awards reflected back and happy to share. And I can use that for marketing. So I think I submitted like 6 images and they all came back in the bronze space. And I went, oh, okay. Then I started challenging myself like, well, let's come up with a concept that you can submit, like multiple that are, creative, that are not just proficient, but that you really enjoy. And I was shooting a lot then. I think I was taking on close to 20 clients a month at that point. So I had a lot to submit. I was teaching a lot for Sue Bryce and back and forth to Los Angeles. It was really exciting because I was realizing the impact it was having for my business. Because before, at the beginning of that journey, I was saying, well, clients don't care.
Yeah.
Until you start winning. And then I was becoming like a status piece. Have you been sharing more client work in that program?
Yes. Yeah. I honestly, I've been thinking lately that I need to do a bit of model calls just to kind of play, because I only do clients.
Mm-hmm.
But then sometimes I have like ideas and this and that would take some time to create and to do the hair and to do the circuit setup. Like invite somebody to do a model shoot where I can actually get creative and play rather than just, connect with them and see how they want to be photographed. And I've been trying, like in sessions, I've been trying to get out of my comfort zone where I'm like, it is about them, but they're also expecting me to create something beautiful.
Uh-huh.
So I've done I want to say the last 3 to 4 sessions, I've planned something that we didn't discuss. Mm-hmm. And they absolutely loved it. So I'm trying to do that. But again, I can't get wild with, flowers and this and that and head pieces unless it's a model call, I feel like. So I'm going to start creating.
That sounds like a limiting belief to me. They want to be the muse. That's why they're investing in that portraiture. So I always have something stashed for every client, like a specific concept, something. I had one client recently, and she said, well, I brought all of these, and this is what we talked about and kind of mapped through, but I just want you to do you. And it never fails every single time. Right. And so it's like, okay, that's right. She loves the color gold. So let's pull this gold gown and, shoot on a greenery wall or whatever. But having those concepts kind of in your back pocket allows you to not panic in the moment and be like, we didn't talk about this. What am I going to do? Right. And go into, oh, well, that's why I bought X, Y, and Z. Right. And whether it's these flowers, or I made that flower wall, or I have a greenery wall, or, this specific concept. And you just kind of keep a running list of the concepts that you have. And it's always great to pull from for every single portrait session.
Okay. I'm kind of sort of doing that, but I don't feel I'm giving myself the freedom to just play. I'm staying in their comfort zone and mine.
But no growth ever happened in a comfort zone, Amel. You know that.
Yes, I do.
For them or for you.
It's true. That is true.
Okay. So you'd mentioned briefly that you had a gala for your women over 40. Can you tell us a little bit more about your over 40?
Honestly, I've been blessed to meet all these amazing women that we now have a beautiful community. I have a VIP group that I'm not even maintaining because I wake up and they all wake up like 5 and 6 too. And I find like tons of messages and people responding. I genuinely created this community where people they feel safe in it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes some women actually share very, very personal like problems or things that they want to do. And it's, it's just been mind blowing. But the actual gala, or let's start with the over 40 and fear. So I photographed 36 women so far from last year, actually, a couple this year, but from 40 to 86.
Oh my gosh.
I know it's just the age range is amazing. The connections we're creating is just something beyond me. I actually went and visited one of them yesterday to drop off the t-shirt that she bought. Hung out with her for an hour. She's 80. She's one of those people that you go, you could be my mom. She would text me first thing in the morning. It's like, don't wake too hard, sweetie.
Oh.
But yeah, so I've kind of started. She was my second client actually in November 2022. But they all gather at like once a month. So tonight actually is our Valentine's. We're going to Classy and Sassy Bar, and it's ladies' night, so we're gonna have a lot of fun. Some of the youngers want to show it up, the older ones aren't, but we kind of switch between like just dinners, nice restaurant, or like party theme every second month. The gala was something out of this world. It was something now we're talking manifestation. It's something that I kind of envisioned. This party, everybody's wearing sparkly dresses, dance floor, like this fancy something. But I had no clue how to put it together. And I genuinely, at the time, did not think I'll get there. Mm-hmm. But that day, people showed up. They brought their friends. They brought their daughters, their husbands. That part, the husbands, was like, to me, because it's women empowerment, I thought men are going to be like, oh my God, like, what are you girls doing? Or what do you think? Like, who do you think you are, basically?
Right.
Then men were actually telling their wives, like, have you met these people before? And some of them have never met each other. Not all 36 show up to the events. And they're like, no, but we hang out every day on that group. They're like, it genuinely feels like, in quote unquote, everyone knew each other and everyone cares about each other. They were noticing the little like diamonds, because I put diamonds on their table, like little things, jewels I got from Amazon. And they like, look how much she cares about you. She even made the table sparkly. Some of the men are like, come, I'll take, like, out of nowhere. Amel, come, gather the ladies. I'll take group photos of you. Like, people were genuinely in it, and they can't wait for this year's gala. So, neither can I. But yeah, it's definitely wasn't just a photo shoot for me or them. I've made great friends, great connections, and they actually have created some beautiful relationships. One story I heard January when we gathered, one of the ladies is like, "Oh, Sonia, thanks so much for answering my panic call in December. Like, I don't know what I would have done." And I was actually in tears. And she's like, "Oh, don't worry, you can call me anytime." She's like, "I was in panic, this. And they were chatting, and I didn't say anything. I was just sitting there. I'm like, "I'm sorry, but like, I created this. I helped this woman have somebody that can support her through
Sure.
December." We all know how December can feel to most of us.
Let's put a pin in this for a second. Let's talk it through. A lot of portrait photographers lean into creating campaigns. So something like a 40 over 40, 30 under 30, 50 over 50, whatever. I mean, you personally know, like the way I teach campaigns and how to market them is a campaign is nothing more than a reason to do business with you that has a deadline. And there can be a date-driven deadline or a quantity-driven deadline. And so when people think they're coming into a 40 over 40, they're sort of assuming like, oh, okay, I can knock this out in a few months. We'll just shoot nothing but this for the next couple of months. And I'm always like, you know what? Why don't you spread it out over the year, right? And work your way backwards for those dates. So then it becomes a date-driven deadline. So you can start planning your event. But what you've actually created is not just 40 photo shoots or 36 photo shoots, right? What you've created is a community of ambassadors who are not only sharing you with their networks, but they're creating friendships in between and amongst themselves. Like you've got clients, one calling the other because they're having a nervous breakdown at the holidays, their photo shoot's coming up, and oh my God, we're all going to die, right? Like that, if that isn't rising tides lift all ships, my friend, I don't know what is.
I'm literally getting goosebumps here. But yeah, to look back, September 2021, I thought I'd be back at a desk having nervous breakdowns every 6 months. And just, yeah. But to be able to have this support, like you supporting me, the whole the portage system like group, and literally guiding me through everything. I wouldn't have been here. I wouldn't have been here, and I wouldn't have been able to help these ladies because they do claim that it's life changing to see themselves.
Sure. Yeah. You have their partners coming in and being like, she's a different person. Oh my God, this has been so great for her, so on and so forth and everything else. And like that, of course, opens up for additional revenue with family sessions and couples shoots and boudoir and Valentine's and all of that. But when you have a partner on board supporting like your influence on their family life, like Amel, like, oof, 2024 is going to be a pretty powerful year for you. I'm so glad that you chose to graduate into the studio takeover and investing in yourself to really move that needle, right? You had proof of concept, you were doing the thing. And, you chose to take a month off to really integrate those automations and those processes so that you can start maximizing the revenue, but that frees you up to give a more wholehearted experience.
Yes. So back to me signing up, I remember my conversation with you and saying, it is on my vision board for next year. Do you remember that? That day I signed up, like half hour later. And then I'm like, wait, like we had a conversation. You still like, you talked to me, we did a consultation. You're like, well, and I'm like, hold on. Every single conversation that I've had with you, I've gone back and done something amazing for my business. Why am I waiting another year to take it to the next level? And that's what I'm like, wait, why am I, can I just sign up today? And you're like, of course. And
please do. Yes.
Well, I'll be honest with you. That first sale that I made, the 60 something, paid for the program. It's an investment that I look back and I'm like, I am so glad I did that. Think about my sale like last week. If I was to take 3 clients a month and reach that sale, there is my $10,000 right there.
Ding, 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 ding.
And that is something I never thought I would say like a few months ago.
Amel, when I was first starting, it wasn't about keeping the number of clients low. It was, I wanted to photograph everyone. Right. And so my focus wasn't on limiting the amount of people I could take. I just wanted to be paid. And I think that the transition, right, from that space to equating to revenue, because all of us, we avoid the revenue conversation until we're proud of what it is that we're producing, right? We're like, oh, I'm photographing 9 people this month, right? Not saying I'm photographing 9 people and I'm going to make $1,800.
Yeah.
Right. So until that shifts into like being able to appreciate even what $5,000 or $7,000 a month might feel like, but then upping your average sale to, even $3,000 from $200 to $1,000 to $1,500. And oh my gosh, now we've doubled it. We're at $3,000. Then you start to see like, I can give a really high-end experience. And you're seeing the effect of what that experience has on the people that you're photographing and how that is ripple affecting through the lives of them, their families, the people they love, how that affects the rest of the world, right? It's not like, oh, this was great. I had so much fun. And then you leave and hate your life and rah, rah, rah. Like there is a ripple effect, right? Like she's going to go home and be in a really great mood and maybe dance with her husband in the kitchen or be really nice to her kid. And her kid's going to feel really appreciated and loved, go to school and be really nice to the other kids at school. And the teacher's going to be happy because the kids were great today. And that teacher's going to go, it's all just a ripple effect. But if you don't have that sales process in place, you
won't get there.
It's so hard. It doesn't have to be. So I'm really proud of you for doing the thing. I was in IT way back in the day. Like, I'm going to age myself here, but like Y2K. I was a network architect in Florida, and then I moved to Boston and worked for a reseller for IBM and Compaq there. And I remember thinking like, and because I was super young then too, right? Like that was 25 years ago. And the job that I got in Boston was for like $30,000. And I was in charge of government contracts in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And it was cool, like learning the IT space. It gave me a lot of understanding in a lot of different areas in tech and in how to approach people and in the sales process and that kind of thing. But it's the infrastructure. Like when you're building those networks, whether we're talking about 1999 networks or 2024 networks, right? It's that infrastructure that allows the flow of that data to get from point A to point B to point C. So anybody that comes to me that's like, well, I was in IT, I always will just reference that infrastructure as the sales process. Then it's not about limiting beliefs. Then it's not about money. It's not about revenue. It's just about the process from A to B. Right. And you're like, oh, the systems, how did I even miss having the systems? I've been installing these systems, didn't even know it. And then taking a month off to focus on that. I was really proud of you for doing that, like in a big, big way, because I know how much it's going to help you.
And I love how it refused to. I was like, because I never thought about it that way. Because like, without a network and every aspect of a network, you can't really run a company. Mm-hmm. There's no business. So I love what you just said, because to me, as that clicked, I'm like, oh, that is even more scary. How did I get last year? How did I get through last year? But no, I definitely appreciate the value of it. And that's why I'm like, I don't want to be here, there, and everywhere. And I don't want to overstress myself. But I work like Kat. I've never woken up so early in my life, not for a job ever. During interviews, I would say I'll be late, but I'll make up for it. Like I work so hard, you won't even notice. But you'll notice me walking in at 8:30. Honest to God, I would never wake up early. January, I actually got up at 6 a.m. Some days I stayed in bed and it takes like a couple of hours to 8 on the phone, but I was so focused. It was a completely different person because I'm like focused. January, I'm going to get this done. But yeah, thanks for the motivation and the loads of homework. But it's amazing. It's
That's like, what I'm here for.
Apply it. Do the homework, apply it. It's been mind blowing how much I learned it.
Oh, I love it so much. I love it so much. All right, Amel, what's next for you?
I would absolutely, I'm trying to actually do a Mother's Day campaign. I kind of set it up, haven't posted it, but I would love to start doing family sessions. And you mentioned earlier, I'm like, oh, that would be nice because I honestly never thought about um, my current clients as potential clients for family. I don't know why. Like, I don't know why. When you said it, I'm like, wait, I do want to do family sessions. So this is, I can offer it first to my clients and start there.
Well, and for your 40 over 40, season 2, right? I would just say, you know what? I'm going to start planning the bones of the event maybe for early November, right? And pick, you know, maybe 3 dates a month that are only for 40 over 40 people, right? And work your way backwards because most of the people, when they call it, you either have people that want to push it out until forever or the people that have the emergency headshot, right? Like, oh my God, I need photos tomorrow. Offer it to the original community first. Like, ladies, I'm doing season 2. If you'd like to come back for season 2, I'd love to have you with, some sort of incentive, right? Maybe you include a 12 by 18 for them or something and let them start booking those final dates, right? So if your event is early November, then you would then stop shooting probably mid-September. So give them the last date from September and work your way backwards so that the people that you're talking to, the new blood, the new leads, and they're asking for the farthest date out. Well, then you're creating some buzz and you're like, I'm so sorry, I'm already booked through September. I have a few dates. We opened up earlier dates so that we could really meet that goal. Because by the time, if you've got 36 ladies, you can probably expect 10 to 15% of them to do the session again. Right.
A couple came back already, actually.
Right. So if you've already got 2 back, you've probably got another 5 to go. So you could fill out 5 of those dates in September, August, and then start working to fill the front end.
I'm literally like dying to take notes here because I'm like, you're talking. I'm like, oh, I should talk to Sonia because she wanted an 8.
We're in the middle of all things campaigns in the studio takeover right now. So we can definitely have that conversation again.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Like, and again, every conversation elevates my process, where I'm headed. So I truly appreciate you.
Love you. Mean it. Thank you so much for being here, Amel. I adore you to pieces and I can't wait to give you a great big hug.
Love you and I appreciate you inviting me to your space. I am so grateful to be part of this.